Alrighty, friends, we're back. Your favorite podcast of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 635, and we're recording on August the 28th. Yes, the month is almost done. It's almost back to school time for all the kids and just everything. Like conference season's ramping up. Retail Loco's just around the corner in Atlanta on November 1st and 2nd. Yeah, there's lots happening. So, and baseball season's winding down. How about
I
you,
know.
Aubrey?
Yeah, as a parent, we are ready. We are ready for school to start. Ready to get back into, I think, more of a schedule. It's been a wonderful and fun summer, but it is time, parents. I know little ones, you feel me. But yeah, it's like bittersweet, right? You're excited to get back into the groove of things, but sad that all the fun, weekend travel and trips are coming to a close.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyhow, yeah, we have the long weekend here, so Monday's a holiday coming up, but other than that, we're back to the grind. So, all right,
Yeah.
well, let's jump into the show. Four stories as usual, and I'll let you kick it off with, I think, an interesting one.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So let's talk about mannequins, not like the movie mannequin from, what was that, the 80s, but actual store mannequins and kind of the evolution, like what is next? All of these mannequins we've had for years have been very much the same. I mean, we've had headless, we've had different shapes and sizes come into play, but now the new evolution of mannequins is perhaps digital, right? So there is a global innovation agency that is called Outform, and they are saying, hey, let's like reimagine the store mannequin. What does that look like? And how can we maybe have like a phygital, if you will, physical and digital form of this? So they're combining this 3D like hologram technology with some dynamic content and then like this real-time data into one robust experience is their claim, right? So, I mean, you see like retailers a lot of times we've seen like the creativity, right? The storefronts and like how they design things and set them up and how each season is different. Sometimes every week is different. But really some of the detail that they're missing per Outform is really this like digital injection to make it future fit and align with how today's tech savvy shoppers and consumers are, going about their retail experience. So this digital mannequin is acting more as like this flexible solution. It's going to not only have like the hologram that uses this human model to showcase the apparel and the accessories, but then it also will have QR code enablement next to the display. So you can see like what is the model wearing, gives customer a level of control of their experience. They can customize the display, perhaps based on their wants and needs. And then once shoppers find a specific model and products that they're looking for, they can purchase them in store or from their smartphones and maybe save outfits for future considerations. Now, not a lot of detail on how this works. Is this like through a store app or is it simply online? I don't know. But I think the idea is simple, right? Like blending the mannequin, but making it more digital so you can interact with it versus it just being a physical display that you're staring at. So one of the global studies that Outform did conduct said that 70% of shoppers are using their smartphones while in store. I don't think that's like news to anybody. We're all using our smartphones for various things. It didn't say exactly what for. Sometimes I'm like, hey, is there a better price on this? Hey, is there something similar I could find? Or do they have my size online if I don't find my size in the store? But I think the point is that people have their phones on them while they're shopping. So how can they engage shoppers more in that aspect as well? So I think this is like really hoping to give brands the power to capture shopper data on one hand, really understand like what are individuals looking for, preferences, habits, purchase decisions, and then add in some in-store metrics, right? So online metrics, user information, aggregated data from that consumer-based mobile experience, and then maybe directly linking to the retailer's commerce platform. So that's like kind of the interesting part for me, where the people sitting in those offices, right? Those executives can get that real-time view, if you will, of what shoppers have considered and what they're actually purchasing. So then they can also retarget across other online channels. That part to me is very interesting, right? Like utilizing that in-store data and interaction with those digital mannequins to say, hey, how can I retarget these people that are engaging with me, or maybe people that are like them? And what's like resonating with my audience at this point. So they can do A/B testing, refine further insights, tailor their content. And then they mentioned a few other value adds like, and they could incorporate operational platforms for pricing information, stock availability, promotional messaging, and other things that could support this like omni-channel business. So overall, I find this very interesting. I don't think that the idea of like a digital mannequin is necessarily new, but I love the idea of tying it with ways to capture in-store data and apply that across maybe their more marketing and advertising channels. So being able to do that at a quicker closed loop type of a play, I think is very interesting. And I would assume that retailers, specifically in the clothing industry, jewelry industry, like anything that is like more high-end goods, really want to know, like, what should we be making? What should we be planning for? What are we going to run out of stock on? Like having those insights early on, I think would help them get ahead of some of the trends, and be more productive and profitable long term. So I like the concept of this, although like just thinking about it from the digital mannequins is not so exciting. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm all over the analytics aspects of this and kind of the data that they can glean from that and how they use that for retargeting. I think it's brilliant. It makes a ton of sense. I like that they're using kind of modern technology here in that these are 3D like holographic kind of models of humans, and that because of that, you can have different ranges of apparels on them. You can have, different ethnicities and diversities represented in, how the model is displayed and so on. And having QR codes there, for interaction, I think is a good thing. So I think there's a lot of good things coming together here. As you said, like digital technology and mannequins is not new. I remember, I don't even know, it must be 7-8 years ago on this show, we covered a UK based mannequin manufacturer, like, and these were like a company that made old school traditional mannequins for retail stores, and they then started embedding Bluetooth sensors in the mannequins in these shops. And it was purely kind of, this was at the height of Bluetooth, when beacons were being deployed in all these retail stores. And they said, well, if this is happening, why don't we just build it into the mannequins? And then they're kind of like a little more hidden and kind of, behind the scenes, part of the fabric of the store. And for the purpose of that was analytics on foot traffic patterns and movements within the stores and things like that. So certainly there's been innovations and, different kind of approaches in this space. And you might remember we covered Oshele, which is a retailer down in Peru that did a pretty interesting post-COVID or middle of COVID campaign, where they teamed up with local theater operator, normally live theater, Broadway type thing. And obviously COVID kind of killed that business, and you had all these empty seats. So even as they were coming back, people weren't necessarily filling it up. And so they took all the empty seats and they filled them with mannequins and dressed them in, the fashion of that retailer, and then had QR codes, affixed to each one. So for those who were in attendance in the seats that they were filling, it looked a little more full, number one, but then you could actually go and interact with these mannequins sitting in these seats and like learn more about that clothing and shop and all that. So I think there are a lot of interesting approaches here, but I like what Outform's doing. I think it's really neat with the holographic experience here, and how you can kind of change that up on the fly. And then the in-store analytics piece on top of that. So it's not just the commerce piece. I think, the dwell time, the sessions and the movements, those metrics, I think from a indoor location tracking perspective, I think are really interesting. Yep. All right. Yeah. So moving on over to our second story now, we're going to jump over to India. where a company called Agenty AI has launched a new POI service. For those who are uninitiated and have not watched the show at all, you may not know POI is a point of interest. So this is a big thing in the world of location data and mapping services. So this refers to kind of how we reference a business or a point on a map and what's at that point, and its particulars, and what defines it. Is it a store? Is it a park? Is it a commercial business? What's its address? What's its makeup? Its business hours? All these things can be tied to the POI. And so I think this is interesting. I was a bit surprised that anytime I see a new POI service, I'm a bit surprised, because I'm always the guy who's like, don't we have these things? Like, Google's done a great job at this. We know the guys at Here Maps have a huge POI service. And yet, even some of the other sort of location data providers that we're familiar with, the Unicasts and the SafeGraphs and the Echoes and all these guys, they also have their own POI services. So I guess that says to me that there's never enough. You can never have it be accurate enough. And the challenge is that especially in the business side of things, businesses are coming and going and changing, and the POIs need to change accordingly. And so these guys are using AI technology to do that, to make sure it's accurate and kind of, up to speed on what's happening within India. And so that's a good thing. So there are a couple features of this, a POI database with, all the extended points of interest. They say they have precise geotagging as well, to make sure that the data points assigned to the geographic coordinates accurately. You can customize it so businesses can, I guess there's an interface for businesses to log in and kind of tailor, the specifics around their business. As I said, things like hours and days of operation and, listing type information can be tied to that. And then they have an insights piece as well, for extracting information from this to focus on marketing campaigns and other things. And there's a few other pieces here. They say, there's an integration. So there must be some sort of API that they've released to plug this into other things. So I don't think there's anything super innovative or cool here. I do think that having accurate POI information is incredibly important. Having a service like this in a market like India that's rapidly developing, I think, is really important. And using AI and machine learning technologies to adjust these things and make sure they're accurate and being developed on the fly, I think is a good thing. So there you go. That's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I do find it very interesting that there is another POI database coming out, and one that has a lot of other products and solutions that they're touting, like web scraping type of software. So it is interesting. And I was looking at like the increase that they're kind of touting, and they're showing like 32% increase in restaurants in North America, I guess, in coverage. 12% increase in retail shops. It looks like that's in, India, and then 18% increase in pharmacy coverage in like Brazil and South America. So I don't know if this is like a big pain point. I would hope that they would know if this is a big pain point before they're setting out to solve this, as other companies that you've mentioned are already doing this. But
yeah, and the thing is like they're talking about the POI side of it, but like, are they also a major player in the mobility data side? Because that obviously typically goes hand in hand with these kinds of offerings. But yeah.
So developing a new point of interest is a topic of interest, but I don't know that I have like high hopes that this solution will immediately be more marketable than others currently in the space.
But I'd love to learn more about it. So if you're at
sure,
reach out to Aubriana or I, easily found on LinkedIn or other socials, and we'd love to chat more and see how we could learn more and help. So there you go.
Tell us about it. All right, next story. Let's go to my old hometown of Atlanta. And a project that's been going on for quite a while, honestly, is called the Atlanta BeltLine. So if you are familiar with Atlanta, there is the city that has lots of, main roads that go run through it, some interstates, 85. And then you've also got 75, you've got 400, and then you've got 285, which is literally a loop that just, if you've ever been stuck on it, you just go around and around and around. So similar to 285, they decided, hey, let's put a belt line more around Atlanta proper, right? Like the dense city area that connects several different neighborhoods. I mean, I think there's like 40 different neighborhoods that it connects. And, it's been a work in progress. I don't know that it is fully complete and actually makes a loop, but that was the goal, to connect other neighborhoods, be able to have another route, if you will, for people to kind of get involved with different communities, be able to even bike ride throughout communities, have with traffic that's there, have another way to kind of move about. So the Atlanta BeltLine Inc. is now kicking off this digital inclusion strategy. So they've announced partners that they're going to work with for the organization's first Smart Cities demonstration project. And it's going to include a few different things. One is autonomous grocery stores, another are wayfinding kiosks, and the third being electronic vehicle charging stations. So this is being done in partnership with Atlanta-based Fortune 500 companies and what they're calling local disadvantaged business enterprise companies. So there's going to be 2 interactive pop-up sites along the BeltLine, and they are aiming to provide Atlantans with tech-driven experiences to help bridge the digital divide by providing free public Wi-Fi, autonomous grocery store, and information on BeltLine activities. They'll include like smart trash cans, and then local businesses to address some of the urban issues. So access to food, technology, and wellness. That's a lot of things, right? This is a very multi-pronged initiative, as you can see. Honeywell's leading these strategic efforts. And if you don't know Honeywell, obviously they are a leader in smart city space. And then there's another business solutions company called Innovate, that's N-Ovate. And that's also an Atlanta-based innovation firm. So there's another company called EX Squared Technology, and that's going to transform 2 areas on the BeltLine into these like pop-ups and showcase and pilot technology. So I think what's interesting here, though, it's also going to have like high-speed internet. So there's going to be the South Side trails and the East Side trails will have high-speed internet that's powered by ABI's fiber network. And then the pilot areas, this is the one interesting component to me so far, honestly. There's going to have a Nourish plus Bloom Market. They're going to have a Black-owned autonomous grocery store and a Rove IQ interactive wayfinding kiosk, Big Belly smart waste bins, and a Blink EV charging station, among others. So the Blue Market and then the Black-owned autonomous grocery store are interesting to me. I think that one of the issues that many people in Atlanta have with the BeltLine project and many other projects that are happening is that it is really causing a lot of gentrification, right? So you've got a lot of neighborhoods that were traditionally pillars of the community, right? Like it is the Black Mecca, and it has been kind of the Silicon Valley of for Black people. And there's just a lot of like tech and entrepreneurship, and it's been a home to so many there. And I think that a lot of the projects have uprooted those communities. So I do love that there is one component, which is a Black-owned autonomous grocery store here. But I think that there's just a lot bigger efforts and a lot bigger things that Atlanta BeltLine and Atlanta as a city could do to help promote. And I understand it's a balance because there's a lot of probably conflicting agendas that are happening throughout the city and the state. But I think that there are some ways that you could bring in more community awareness and opportunities to just integrate those communities for the better, without it being a downside. So I think it's a project that's worth keeping an eye on. Obviously, with Retail Loco being there, it's something that for sure, I think in the future will be an opportunity to get involved with the BeltLine and just have a better understanding of the efforts that they're putting there, and maybe even have a little input from an LBMA perspective.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. It was, as I was reading the story and hearing you tell it again, it reminded me, like I'm obviously up here in Toronto, and pre-COVID there was the big, Google Smart City initiative on our waterfront, where there was a huge plot of land, and they were going to build this entire digital city with all these sensors and all these moving parts and all sorts of data and smart everything. And then obviously COVID hit and Google pulled out completely, and now that land's being turned into something completely different. But I like a lot of the elements of this as they've described it, and I think there's a lot of potential in these things, and it seems like at least they're not trying to do too much too fast, like having two pop-ups. Okay, I mean, I can get behind that and seeing what we learn from it, and then growing from there. And yeah, I think, as you said, like from an LBMA point of view, having our retail local conference in Atlanta, coming up on November 1st and 2nd, I'll reach out to Clyde Higgs, who runs the Atlanta BeltLine, or if you're listening, Clyde, we'd love to have you come and share about this in person at the conference in November. That would be great. I think it would be a good story to tell in terms of local technology innovation, location-based engagement. And yeah, perhaps there's a way we can support and get involved as well as the industry association. So that would be really cool. Yeah, and I think there are several elements of this that I'm excited about. I think the interactive wayfinding pieces, the potential for how you navigate the Black-owned grocery stores and environments like that. I think there are a lot of components to that, yet to be figured out, but or at least from the story's perspective, yet to be figured out. So I'm sure they figured it out. But yeah, I definitely want to learn more about this, and I think it's a harbinger for something much bigger.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, on to our final story now. So there is a company out there called Gale, Gale, an agency, creative agency, and they've been working with Chipotle for some time now, for the last 3 years or so. And they kind of have this very interesting campaign that they developed, kind of building upon how diverse the ingredients and customization that's available for Chipotle customers. So apparently there are 53 different ingredients that people can use to customize your orders. And because there's so many, there's countless combinations of what can happen. So think people who order extra cheese or half and half beans or light tomatillo or sauce, or whatever the thing might be that you want, or how you want your Chipotle order made. And because of that, because of the POS system and so on, they have access to sort of what every single order was, and they've pulled this data together. And they can see these kind of combinations, and we might all think that how we order is unique to us, but in fact, there's probably hundreds, thousands of other people out there that want it exactly the way we want it. And so what they built is this really fun and cool email marketing campaign. So yes, email marketing is still alive. They call it the Chipotle Doppelgänger. And so basically they scan millions of orders in near real time, and then they look for orders that match yours. And then an email is designed. And the email is kind of cool too, because it looks like you're getting a system alert when you receive it. And it basically shares which cities the orders came from, the specific ingredients, the time of the order. And that's, at the same time you get on your receipt, and then you kind of receive this. And then you're kind of shared with you some other person somewhere within the Chipotle ecosystem that it has the exact same order as you. And so it's really interesting. So apparently they sent in the first month 466,000 emails, an open rate 175% above the benchmark, and an estimated boost in revenue of $4.8 million from this campaign. So it kind of, what I like about it, it shows with creative thinking what you can do with data you already have. And just you kind of, expose it in a different way and create something fun from it. So I really like this campaign. I think it's super cool.
Yeah, I think this is fun. I love that some of the articles around this topic have been like, email is almost not dead. Chipotle proves that. So I like that they use the current medium, to roll this out, and it's fun. It's quirky. It is interesting to know that other people like their food the same way that you do or not, as it is a personal decision. So I think this is it's quirky and I like it. And I think that people are still like using the content. I mean, this launched, I think, in July, and the content is still being published. Like there's still fresh content that's happening today around Chipotle Doppelgänger. So it's like, it's fun that it's continuing. So that's always a benefit to good, smart, and creative advertising ideas.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess they could always take this a step further. If you remember the campaign way back that we covered years ago from Oscar Mayer, where they created an app for bacon lovers, kind of on the Tinder model, and essentially you could swipe right and swipe left, and for people who like bacon, and if you like bacon, that kind of thing. And I guess you could create something like this, somebody who likes their Chipotle exactly the way you do, if you're in the market, could be dating heaven. I don't know.
There you go.
It's possible. So maybe that's phase 2 of the campaign. So yeah. So
like it.
They can go from the doppelganger to the matchmaker. So there you go.
Maybe. I think if any like QSR can identify how to keep couples from like fighting on what they want to eat, then you have a winner.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, that's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 635 of Location Weekly. We thank you for your time. Just a reminder, Retail Loco, our conference, is just around the corner in Atlanta, November 1st and 2nd. Just go to thelbma.org and click on events, and you'll see all about it there and get your tickets. If you're interested in being a sponsor or speaker, reach out to Aubriana or I, and we're happy to help you find the information about that as well. And we'll be back next week with another show. Well, Karsten and I will probably be back next week with another show. Aubriana is off doing other things, but we'll see you soon regardless. Take care.
Have a great week.
Bye.